And just like that, I am back, okay, for the last episode of Journey with Dina. The journey has come to an end for 2025, and I just cannot believe that I have been doing this for 12 months, okay? Let's just take a moment of silence. Amen, okay? So, welcome to tonight's podcast. We are closing it out this year and talking about how we got here, okay? So, if you have been watching, then you already know all the movements that were made on this year for myself, because that is why it was entitled Journey with Dina, okay? And so, if you have journeyed with me this entire year, thank you so much for taking the journey with me. If you watch this so happen by replay, I'm sure there is something that you can go in there and watch and see that we have talked about. Okay, so if you come back and watch the replay, drop down in the chat and tell me hello, as I always ask y'all to do, and tell me some of your movements that you made for the 2025 year. Are you still in the middle of making movements? Have you done any movements? Have you prepared yourself for the movements? Like all of that good stuff, okay? Hi, Kim. Welcome to tonight's podcast with your girl, Dina. That will be me. Thank you for joining me tonight, honey. 2025 has been a year, okay? Some good days and some bad days, but through all of the days, God has been right by our side, okay? So, tonight's topic is 2025 was the year of movement, okay? Not always the loud kind, but the aligned kind. The yes, God, I'm ready kind. The if you move any kind of way this year, guess what? You grew. And God is pleased with that. And so, I was doing my notes today. And in my notes, it was talking about how movement is not measured by milestones. When we get to the end of the year, we always have our New Year's resolution. What we ain't going to do next year, how we going to change this, that, and the other. But how long does it last? Do you even make it through the first month of doing a New Year's resolution? Some people do, some people don't. I'm one of them people that, my New Year's resolution was not always good. Because, honey, at the end of the year, I was cutting you off my list, okay? If anything went any kind of way that it was supposed to, check off. And so it's crazy because every year, at the end of the year, people whom I just not dealing with anymore. And I'm gonna go ahead and tell y'all my business because here I go. I already give y'all this is no part of what I was gonna say, okay? So every year at the end of the year, if I talk to any guys at the end of the year, if it wasn't on the whole, if it wasn't on their level, guess what I do? Delete, 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 delete. Let's start the new year afresh. Okay, welcome all the new people. I ain't lying, y'all. I promise I did that. Okay, but I can't even do that this year because I ain't got nobody to lead on her. But that's okay because that means the Lord was covering me this year. Okay, so I don't really make New Year's resolutions anymore because New Year's resolution comes with how we make plans for the new year, right? So I understand to a certain extent how we make plans on how we want the new year to go to a certain extent. But I also know that God's plans are not our plans, right? God's time is not our time. So for me to get to this new year and say, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing this. And God said, I didn't tell you that you wasn't doing all that you was letting this go when you were doing it. Those are your plans. So I'm learning to make my plans and leave them open and to be more intentional and more talking to God about, okay, God, so what's the plans for 2026? And a lot of times he don't even give me the plans. He was like, I'm not going to give it to you. You're just going to have to trust me. So I've learned to take it day by day. Because y'all know when I told y'all in the beginning of this thing, in January, I was a planner to my heart. But God was like, no, 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 ma'am. You can put that pen down. I got it from here, okay? Whew. But I have gotten so much better, y'all. Like, people don't even understand to the level of how content I am with things in my life. Even when people have, baby, as I say, bamboozled me, hoodwinked me, and led astray, I don't even get mad anymore. And I say, I don't care. And people's like, why you, no, you don't care. That ain't right. They ain't do you right. I don't care to that extent that I'm going to lose sleep about it. I'm going to stress about it. I'm going to try to take into my own hands. I'm not going to do all that, okay? Because I don't have the strength or the capacity to handle it. There are bigger things that God is requiring of me for today, okay? So I don't have time to deal with that. I let God deal with all that other stuff, and I keep it moving, right? And so, listen, y'all, this has been a year. Yes, Kimberly Winter says, trust in him, baby, because my plans be, yes, honey. Because we make our plans and then we tell the Lord, okay, Lord, this is the plan, this is what I want you to do. He looking like, you ain't running this. And I be like, and you know, I said I got better, but let me tell y'all this, I'm over my business, right? So a couple of weeks ago, I had already said in my mind, Lord, if this ain't happened by the end of the year, I'm cutting this off. I ain't doing this no more, and I ain't doing that no more. It wasn't even 24 hours, honey. And the Lord said, you doing what? There's one thing about God you ain't gonna tell him and you ain't gonna know how he's going to do it and when he's going to do it. If he told you he gonna do it, he gonna do it. But you don't know how, you don't know when. And you got to keep an open mindset. And you, baby, you got to practice that word that we don't like to hear. Patience. Because in the patience is not the time you are waiting, it's the person that you are becoming in between time, okay? Because guess what I've learned? The plans, the everything that you want and need is already prepared for you. The job is prepared, the spouse is prepared, the home is prepared, the business is prepared, the ministry is prepared. Everything that you want and desire is already prepared. But what? God is growing you up to be able to handle it. Yeah, we asking for some things now, but can you handle it if I gave it to you? I told somebody earlier we was talking and they were saying we don't know what we want. Well, yeah, a lot of us don't know what we want. We say we want this, then the other, and then when God gives it to us, oh Lord, I ain't ready for this. I gotta do all these. I wasn't ready yet. So that's why he takes his time and grows us and stretches us so that when he gives it to us, then we're able to handle it. Because a blessing given too soon is a burden, right? So just like they always use the analogy, if your child wants a car, you have every intention on buying your child a car for their 16th birthday, right? But they're asking for the car at 12. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into why the child can't have the car at 12, right? First of all, they're not legally old enough to drive. Second of all, most of them don't know how to drive. Third, they ain't got no license. Then they ain't gonna be on no insurance. They ain't got no car. So, and the list can go on, right? But you being that good parent, just like God is our good father, he knows what we want and what we have need of. But he's not going to give us anything too soon because that would just crush us or break us or devastate us, right? So he takes time to stretch us, to mold us, to shape us, to be able to handle it to the capacity of what he wants to give us. Because we may be asking for this much, but God wants to give us this much. So he has to stretch you and grow you so you can handle the more that he's going to give it to you. Because God ain't a God where he going to just give you little by little. God is a God of exceedingly abundantly above what you can ask or think. And we don't even have the capacity to think of how God has things in store for us, right? But we have to stop focusing on the end result and focus on who we are becoming to be able to handle that. Because a lot that I have learned in this season of my life is it's not just about you. Everything that happens to us and through us is attached to somebody else, right? And a lot of times when we growing through those things, it's an assignment, right? And sometimes God's give you that assignment, and then when your time is up, when you have fulfilled what's supposed to be done, then your time is up and your assignment is up, and God wants to move you to the next. But if your assignment is not up and you have not been stretched to that capacity yet, guess what? It ain't time, baby. You still got some more work to do. And I ain't gonna tell y'all, no, baby, listen, I thought I was okay. I thought I was all worked on and worked out and had all my ducks in a row. God said no. And I'm gonna tell y'all my business again, because Kim already knows on her. The Lord is saying there is more that He requires from us. Every level requires a different you, okay? And I'm learning it because this year taught me to trust God on a whole nother level, y'all. Like, I trust God, I love God, me and God, we got our relationship and all that. But this year, God took away every familiar place from me to put me in a position where I had no choice but to trust Him and Him alone. And I got to a point where I can't, not that I couldn't call my parents or somebody else, I didn't want to. I wanted to call God for God to do what needs to be done, because He is our good, good Father. And He wants nothing more but to bless us and to give us the things that we want, need, and desire, right? So He stretched me and put me in a place where instead of trying to figure it out and add it up, I'm like, God, this is what we need this week. Write my little note down to Him and go on about my business. And even people around me don't understand the level of peace that has brought me in my life. Like, look at my skin, honey. I ain't got no stress marks and forehead wrinkle, all that, because I can't worry about all that. I can only do what I can do, and I'm not going to worry about anything else, right? So I'm just learning. I've learned this year to move when God say move, to be still when He says be still, and to listen. And God is not a God that He's going to holler or shout. You have to be quiet and still in order to listen to Him, because sometimes He talks in a little whisper. Don't go that way. Don't do that. Don't answer the phone. So you have to be very intentional about your movement, right? And so I was very intentional about my movement on this year. And guess what? I feel like God aligned me strategically for this next season of my life, 2026. I don't know what it's going to hold. I'm already getting some whiffs of some things, but I'm just going to trust God throughout the whole time, okay? And so, I already did my homework, y'all. So I just got a few little notes to say to y'all tonight before we close out the 2025. And I got a little questions I'm going to ask you at the end. I guess I'll put it at the end. No, I'm going to go ahead and give it to you now, okay? And the first question is, where is God inviting you to move next? What part of your life are you feel being led to that God is moving you from? Is it a job? Is it a church? Is it from overthinking for yourself? Is it trying to plan everything yourself instead of talking to God? Like, what is God inviting you that it's time to move next? That's the first question, right? The second one is, what part of me is ready to rise? What part of me is ready to move when God say move? Because our movement is not comfortable. A lot of times it's uncomfortable because we don't understand like what's next. And we want to know, well, you want me to do what? Well, if I do that, what's going to happen next? A lot of times He's not going to tell you what's next. He's just going to ask that you move. And it's in your obedience if you move. And guess what? Delayed. If He tell you to do something and you don't do it then and delay it, it's still disobedience. So go ahead and move when He tells you to move, because you don't know what that next move will be. And you don't know who's tied to you, right? So when we don't move when God tells us to move, we hinder the people who are attached to us, okay? So keep that in mind, right? So the next one is, what story am I finally willing to stop repeating? What is it in your life that you have been doing the same thing, same thing, same thing? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So what is it that we ain't gonna do? Kim Winter said, job, definitely removing bitterness. Yes, Kim, that is something that I had to learn as well. When I was on this job and I hated the job so much because it just was so much going on. And I found myself complaining more than I was praising. I was complaining about the supervisors. I was complaining about the hours. I was complaining about everything about the job. But this is the same job that I asked God to bless me with a job, the same job that allowed me to buy my second home, that allowed me to buy my dream truck, that allowed me to travel, that allowed me to be a blessing to other people. All that had went out of the window because I was ready to leave. But God, every time I got ready to leave, God would tell me to be still. And I was like, be still. And I couldn't move. I couldn't leave because he hadn't released me to move. So when he says be still, that means no. I be still until I give you instructions. Be still until I open the door for you. Be still until I'm ready for you to move. So don't go ahead of me because when you go ahead of me, you out there by yourself. So be still until I give you the instructions to go on, right? And every time I would ask God, can I quit? He would tell me, no, be still. And I was so frustrated. And even one time he said, I'm elevating you. I'm like, elevating me? I don't want to be elevated. I'm trying to quit. What you mean you elevated? The more frustrated I would get, the higher he took me in the company. Ain't that something? I was there for 13 years. But in those 13 years, I did not always hate the job. It was good when I first got it. Like I said, it was good to me and allowed me to buy those things. But he was teaching me something. Even in that job, he was teaching me leadership skills. He was teaching me how to deal with conflict. He was teaching me how to deal with people, how to have empathy for people, because I had never been in that position of leadership before. But the more I rose in elevation, the more the target was on my back. And I cried so many days. But God strengthened me and he put me through those leadership classes. And I didn't understand at that time why. But once I went through those classes and got an understanding, he promoted me on my job, in my church, in my business. Everything was revolved around the leadership skills that I learned at that job in those 13 years. And when I got to the point where I had learned and passed the test, because you have to pass the test. If you don't pass the test, you will still be stuck there repeating the same circle. So I learned to not complain about it, but to thank God for the job and ask. I didn't even ask anymore, why was I here or what was I supposed to learn? I showed up differently. So in the mornings when I would show up for work, instead of complaining, I would put my worship music on in the car. I would talk to God on my way. I would sit in my car before I go in and I would pray. When I got into the room, I played my worship music across the whole room. Yes, I did. And I would change the atmosphere. God knows I'm ready to leave, but I ain't learned what I'm supposed to leave, what I'm supposed to learn there. You're so cold. I can't go nowhere. I can, but it's going to be on you. But I didn't want to do that. So I stayed. And he finally released me. And when he released me, he told me that I have plans for you. And so that releasement came after 13 years. But I didn't want to be released until the last probably 3 to 4 years when I seen stuff shifting and changing. And he finally released me. And I knew he had released me because my time was up and my season was done there. And so it was effortless. And I put in my resignation. And they did me wrong even when I left, but that's okay because God handled that and he did and repaid me very nicely. Okay. However, when I left, I turned in my notice. A friend of mine who I hadn't talked to in a couple of weeks had texted me. And she was like, hey, I hope you have a good day. For I know the plans, God says, for I know the plans that I have for you. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a hope in a future. When she texted me that, I knew that was God allowing me to go ahead and leave, because that was my favorite scripture in the world. And I hadn't talked to her in 2 weeks. Turned the resignation in. I felt peace about it. And God let me leave on out of there in peace and in his timing, because I had to shift my thinking, watch the words that came out of my mouth about how much I complained, how much I hated the job, how much I was ready to go, because now I was speaking those things. And the more I spoke it, the worse the job got. So I had to change all of that, right? Kim, that procrastination is still disobedience. Procrastination is a sin, right? It is in the Bible as slothfulness, okay? And a lot of things, guess what? We don't have or we don't obtain because of procrastination is because you're not doing your part. So how can God do his part if you're not doing yours? You can't ask me for something and then don't take the steps to do it. That's not how it works. So I don't know, Kim, I just gave what the Lord just gave me. We got to remove that procrastination, because you're hindering yourself and whoever is attached to you as well, right? So even back on her about movement, movement isn't just about going somewhere. It's about becoming, like I talked about earlier, becoming someone. This year, I became a person that I didn't even know I was. Okay. I became more bold. I became more confident in myself and who God created me to be, right? I've gained so much wisdom. And from that, it all led to here. Like with this podcast, this is something I've never done before, sitting on platforms, talking to people, telling them my business. Now I tell them my business, but not on this level, right? But this opened so many doors for me, right? I had a lady call me I've never met before and asked me to sit on a panel and talk to the women my age about singleness. And that's how I got here on the podcast. So you just seen my life this year in real time. The singleness, every topic that I talked about, the journey that I have been going through this year, y'all got it in real time. I don't know why the Lord created and did it like that. I just was obedient to what he was telling me to do. And my obedience just continued to open doors. But I am grateful that I was able to be stretched. I was able to be transparent with you all. And every time that I didn't want to come on live, somebody would call me and say, "You going live?" Or somebody would call and say, after I did a live, and I'd be like, "I should delete that. Nobody wasn't even watching and listening. They probably ain't getting nothing." Somebody will call me and say, "Thank you for that. I needed that. You was right on point with that. That blessed me." And so for me, whether it's one person or 1,000 people, long as somebody is encouraged, somebody is able to keep pushing, to keep growing, to keep getting stretched, to keep becoming the person who God created you to be, then I have done my part, and God says, "Job well done." Okay. So in that, I also has we don't move alone, right? So I did not move alone on this journey. I move with you all, right? Y'all move with me, and I thank you for that. I thank you for being open to my journey. I thank you for the support you have given. I thank you for your feedback. I thank you, even if you didn't even tell me that you watched and you got something. I thank you for, because I'm just trying to do my little part here on earth so the Lord can say, "Well done." Okay. We move with intention. Intentional is always my new word. Do everything intentional, right? We move with grace, and we definitely move with God. We don't make our plans anymore and then tell God what we want to bless. Mm-mm. We move when God tells us to move and how he tells us to move, right? And so I got my little other part that I got, that I'm gonna read my little things that I got on her, and I'm gonna let y'all have a good evening, because honey, I already almost got up to my 30 minutes. Okay. So it says, as we close out this year on the journey with Dana, I want to leave you with this. Movement isn't always loud, it isn't always fast, and it isn't always visible to people around you. But movement, the real soul level movement, always leaves evidence, okay? This year has been a year of shifting, stretching, and stepping into unfamiliar places with a little more courage than we had before. Some of us moved in ways no one would ever see. Some of us moved by letting go. Some of us moved by standing still long enough to hear God clearly. And some of us moved by finally choosing ourselves, putting yourself first, okay? But here's the truth that I want you to carry into 2026. Movement is not measured by miles, is measured by obedience. It's measured by alignment. It's measured by the quiet yes you whisper when no one is watching. If this year taught us anything, y'all, it is that God honors motion, no matter how small or how big. He honors the pivot, He honors the pause, He honors the courage that it takes to leave what's familiar and walk toward what's promised. So, as we step into a new year, I want you to ask yourself, where is God inviting me to move next? What part of me is ready to rise? What story am I finally willing to stop repeating? Because movement isn't just about going somewhere, it's about becoming someone. And if you've been journeying with me this year, you already know, like I just said, we don't move alone, we move with intention, we move with grace, and we move with God. Thank you for walking with me, growing with me, and trusting me with your heart this year. I cannot wait to see where we move together next. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being a part of my village, my journey. I hope that I have gave you a little bit to hold on to through my transparency, through my journey this year. You know, this year was a lot for me. I transitioned in January from my church that I had been at for 25 years. February, I transitioned from a job that I had been working for the last 2 years. March, I transitioned and closed down a business and opened up my own in April. And I have moved into so many new circles with so many new women that I've been able to be a part and blessed by bringing women together. Listen, I definitely know that women getting together is my ministry, okay? I know that. I can't get away from it. Single women, married women, whatever the women is, it is always me in the middle bringing women together to have a good time, to show that women aren't always messy. It's always about a sisterhood. Like, let's be held more accountable. That is our word at church for the 2026 year, about being accountable for your actions, your tones, your friendships, your everything it is going into 2026. Do your part, okay? So that is all that I have to share with you. I hope that these last 2 days, because tomorrow is the final day in 2025, right? And don't count God out. God still has time to do it before the clock strikes midnight on tomorrow night. God still has time to blow your mind, okay? So stay in position. Continue to wait well on this single journey that we going into 2026. We single and satisfied, okay, Kim? Until God says otherwise. But we are preparing for that good thing. We are preparing to be found, right? Because my scripture, Proverbs 18 and 22 says, a man that findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtains favor. You are that favor, honey. Man, go find your favor because the favor is waiting for you, okay? So, Kim, we're going to be that favor in 2026. So, we are going to continue to wait well, continue to become the woman who God has created us to be, so that when we step into that season, that we are able to hold it down, okay, and do it God's way, not our way, because listen, God already got it planned out. We just got to walk into it, okay? It's going to come when you least expect it. But you already know my saying, y'all. What? It's closer than you think. So until 2026, When I see you all again, wait well and know that your time is coming, okay? Peace out. Happy New Year. Be safe, be intentional, and let's get ready for 2026 to blow our mind, okay?